Okay, so this is the interview with Naomi Hamer for Ryerson Liberal Arts Society, the Liberal Arts Monthly, and we shall begin. Question 1. What current position do you hold at Ryerson University?
Okay, so I'm an assistant professor in the English department, and my focus is child and youth studies. That's sort of my official position title, I guess. Yeah, and I just started in the summer of 2017, so brand new to Ryerson.
And what courses have you taught in the past, and what courses do you currently teach?
Yeah, so since it's only my first year, I taught the Open Topics Practicum, which I taught in picture books and remediating, I guess, what was the official title? Remediating picture books, and it was like remediating children's picture books. And then I taught a MA seminar course, which was called The Rise of Children's Literature, for the MA in Literatures of Modernity. And then right now I'm teaching like English 224, which is the big children's literature kind of survey course, and I will be teaching that course here. There can be like promotions. Exactly. I will be teaching that course next year twice, so people can take it.
I'll probably have you then. I'm taking that.
I'm
taking it. Yeah, that's
I'll
great.
be teaching that 224, and then I'm also I'm teaching the MA course again, and then I'll also be teaching 810. That which apparently
the research methods for English. I can't remember the exact
apparently title. It's a grueling challenge to teach that course.
I was not a fan, to be honest. But
so I'll look forward to your feedback in a different time when we're not recording.
For sure.
But previous to that, I taught at the University of Winnipeg. So I taught. I don't know how much you want to know about that, but
anything,
I taught. And in that, when I was at the University of Winnipeg, I also taught like a range of children's literature courses, and some of them I'm hoping will be able to be developed into courses at Ryerson, but will take a moment to thought I'd ease in before proposing all sorts of things. But I do teach children's media cultures, which of course I was doing a little bit with the picture books course, and even with 224 I have like films on the course and that kind of thing. But I'm hoping, because I taught a films for young people course, which would be a really awesome course, like we're like film adaptations of children's books. So I have some ideas about
I would take that course.
Like seminar courses or like other courses, just so to make sure you're in a room with good screening abilities is the problem. And it'd be cool to teach an MA course too in kind of more media cultures than literature, but it will happen over time because my background's as much in media as it is in literature, right? So so it'll be fun to do that
for sure. What led you to obtain a job as a professor at Ryerson?
Oh, that's a good question. So obviously, when I finished my PhD, or I was finishing my PhD when I got the job at the University of Winnipeg. So it began as a sessional position, and I thought I'd only be in Winnipeg for a year, and then managed to be in the prairies for many years, much longer than expected. So I really liked my job, but the University of Winnipeg is great, but it's much smaller than Ryerson, and it's located in a city that I wasn't from, and so I was pretty excited when the job at Ryerson was posted, because I didn't actually think that I would be able to get a job at home as an academic, and we can get to that in other questions, but so anyway, so that is so I applied. So I guess, do you want to know the process of what I did?
Sure,
I guess so I guess I have various graduate degrees and then also teaching experience at other universities, so so then you apply. It is kind of a grueling, like the academic job market process. It's like the jobs are posted in the fall, and then you apply, and then you get long listed. So you get they do Skype interviews of usually about at least 10 of the candidates. Like it depends what the pool is, what the interview pool is, and then it's usually 3 to 4 candidates are flown in to have like a full day campus visit. So it is a very grueling, and you kind of get to know people. It's like this long day, sometimes 2-day process, and then if you don't get it, it just feels really weird because you spent all this time. It's not just like an hour interview. And you have to send your like publications and your CV and your teaching portfolio and all your student evaluations if you have any yet, and all this kind of thing. So
Wow. So. I didn't realize that was such a long process.
It is,
That was simple as, this job's open, I'll apply to it.
And I think, I mean, sessional, like that's whole, like contract teaching jobs are not as grueling in terms of the process. The teaching is this very similar kind of job, but usually those jobs are, you're like assessed by the course, like more about what courses people need to be taught versus like more full-time university positions. You're evaluated in all sorts of other things.
Wow.
Because I guess they're committing to you technically.
I guess they kind of
for like many years, so they're kind of like choosing your colleagues.
They have to
quite
be
a
sure.
while. They have to be
exactly.
more sure.
And you might have mentioned, you obviously mentioned this, what is your major area of expertise?
Yeah, so my expertise is in children's literature, culture, and media, or like in child youth studies, kind of broadly, like interdisciplinary. And I do focus on kind of mediated versions of children's books, and especially visual narratives, so picture books, graphic narratives, film adaptations. And then the book I'm working on that's almost done is all about like other kinds of cross-media engagement. So everything from like children's literature tattoos to theme parks and like children's museums and like other things as well, like beyond just kind of like film or like an app.
That's really interesting. Even tattoos. Wow.
Yeah, I have a chapter.
Really cool.
I'm super excited about it. Yeah. Well, it's a sort of like nostalgic adult engagement with children's text and what. Yeah. Like there's all sorts of fandom about it. Like Maurice Sendak especially. Yeah. I met a woman who has Goodnight Moon tattoos on her upper thighs.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So she has like, I think it was like the moon, and she had mush.
Oh wow, really? Yeah, I was gonna say, was it the entire picture book, or was it scenes?
It was like scenes, yeah, with, like things, yeah. Super interesting.
But even that's commitment too.
That's a commitment.
That's a commitment. Yeah.
And well, Lena Dunham like famously has Eloise on her back, I think it is.
Really?
You know Eloise? I don't know if you know those.
I know
picture
Eloise.
books.
Yeah, I didn't know she had it on her back though.
Yeah, and so she did this short documentary about the artist. She went and like found him.
Oh, I think
like, on the HBO.
Yeah, I think I'd seen that.
Because someone told him that like that there was this like young like filmmaker, TV show actor, whatever Lena Dunham is these days. That had a tattoo of Eloise. So they like met. And he's like this really eccentric 9-year-old man. Anyway, side note.
Yeah. No, that's great though. Yeah. What other working area have you completed or are currently working on?
Yes. So I finished this book. I'm so happy. So that's that's the co-edited book that came out last year with Perry Nodelman, who his book Words About Pictures was kind of this like radical in the 80s. It was really radical to take picture books. It still is in many ways to take children's literature seriously, I think, as an academic. It's kind of marginal in some ways still, but not as much as in the 80s. So he wrote Words About Pictures, and then this is like almost 30 years later we had a symposium, so it's about what has happened in picture book publishing, and then also methodologies and other critical approaches. What has changed? What is similar? Does have a great reflective introduction by him. And then I have a chapter on apps. So that project has led to this broader, so my monograph, this book, that hopefully will be done in the next year. Fingers crossed. You heard it here. We have a document. I said it would be done by 2019.
I'll remind you.
Exactly. So that book, that's a cross-media, that's all about cross-media engagement with picture books and cross-media adaptations. So it has different chapters so apps are part of it, but it's much broader than that.
What is that experience like for you? Do you enjoy that process of
the writing?
Yeah, the writing and the researching.
I like researching a lot. I find writing a full book or co-editing a book was just grueling. Well, co-editing you have to chase after people too. So you have to chase after academics, which is
not as
fun. It's like herding cats. It's herding cats. I don't know. I'm a really social person, so I really do enjoy like presenting and teaching. And the actual like act of research, I find it harder to sit alone in my room and write. Like once I get into the mode, I'm good.
Then it's good.
But it takes a while. The actual like writing an article is different because the time like it still takes a long time, but it's not as intense as having like your dissertation too. Like I just lost my mind by the end of that. I think if you don't lose your mind by the end of your dissertation, something may be wrong with you. So it happens. I was gonna say, so the two projects I'm working on now, I have this fairy tale across media book that just got the proof, so it should be coming out next year. And then this project on children's museums that I'm starting. So it's about children's book engagements in children's museum context. And we've just applied, Anne-Marie Murnahan, who's my colleague in geography, we just applied for a big grant to do, like to work with young people actually, real young people, to be like co-curators of an exhibit as part of the project. So that would be really cool.
That's exciting.
And and then the other project, Jill, who was just here, she's my research assistant for this queer picture book project that I'm working on.
That's awesome.
With Derek Mason in Calgary. So part of although I write by myself, I have tried to do a bunch of projects now collaboratively, even though sometimes it takes more time. It does work for me as a person to have another person kind of at your being like, so what are we doing now? We haven't talked for a month. What's happening with the book?
Because I imagine that would be daunting doing that all alone.
Some people, if you work with people who are hard to work with, then you kind of crave being by yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And I think some academics love working by themselves. They don't like others.
Yeah.
And historically arts, and I can answer this in a later question, historically arts was a very isolated, like you were supposed to be in like, you know, alone in the tower.
Yeah, exactly.
Thinking, meditating, like that kind of old model, but I don't, well, Ryerson certainly isn't like that, and I think academia, like in arts, I think things have changed.
Yeah.
I think things are starting to change in terms of what does it mean to be like a research collaborator in arts. It's changed from before. I think it's still worthwhile to have like these deep reflections by yourself, but I think
absolutely.
I think collaboration's important.
Yeah, definitely. And then were you? I assume you were always passionate. Were you always passionate about this particular area?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I know there's other answers here too, but yes, I didn't know. I don't know, it's funny because when I meet people who haven't seen me, because I've just moved back home, I'll like see people who haven't seen me in a long time. So some people knew what I was doing, but you know, sometimes you bump into people from childhood who haven't seen you in 20 years. So people will be like, oh, that makes sense. So obviously they're, you know, I obviously knew I was going to be probably some kind of teacher. I had a feeling, or some kind of performance oriented something like that's sort of the nature of my personality, but I wasn't sure if I was going to do like a children's literature specifically as a topic interested me, but I could have as easily gone into like theater studies probably, or performance studies like early on. My undergrad I started as an English theater major and then kind of hated the theater people.
Really? Yeah.
At McGill especially. They were very pretentious, and then I met this women's studies prof who I still know and is my colleague now, which is really crazy. Jackie Reed Walsh. She was a children's literature scholar who was teaching in women's studies because there was only so many courses you could teach in children's literature at McGill. And because of her, in many ways, I was like, oh, you can study that? Like that's something you can do. And so she encouraged me to apply for the master's program, which I ended up doing at UBC, because I wrote my final paper for her, like kind of women and gender studies course on children's books, like representation of gender in children's books. And so she encouraged me, and then that MA had just started, so it was funny. I saw Judy Saltman, who came to speak to our class, and she said, oh, I'm so glad that program like happened to evolve around the time you were looking for grad school, because you could have, like, I knew I kind of wanted to go to grad school, but I could have chosen like easily if I'd met someone else, or I could have ended up in a slightly different area, you know. But children's literature appealed to me because, although it was marginal and some people didn't take it that seriously, it was interdisciplinary in a way that interested me. And I kind of liked the idea that not many people were doing it. It felt different, you know. Like it was, and honestly, like the picture book stuff, because of the theatrical performance nature of picture books, like it appealed to what I've studied earlier. I think brought together lots of things.
Did you ever have any childhood favorites? Like, were you ever passionate about just picture books when you were growing up? And
and my mom, and I have quite a few now, because I can show you one after. Or remind me. You can look at it after. Because I'm back home, my mom has found like all sorts of crazy, weird.
Oh wow! Yeah.
You can look at it. While I'm chatting. Like crazy, weird picture books from my childhood that like are really obscure and.
Your name's still on it too.
I know. Wow. Anyway, you can look it after. But but anyway, so my mom like. I think my parents, and like Perry Nodelman talks about this in his book as well, because Perry Nodelman grew up, well, he's like 73 now, and so when he was growing up, picture books were not really a thing. Like comics were a thing, some stories were a thing, like he always was really into like fairy tales and like other kinds of like adventure stories, but illustrated text, it wasn't until he was kind of like a father or parent, and then he was also like a English lit academic who rediscovered picture books, but I actually grew up in a time where there were a lot of picture books, right? So definitely like Sendak. My parents were very eclectic, so they had like really weird, I feel like my mom was like one of those people who like buys weird books in the clearance rack. She still does for my nephews or whatever, so I think because of that we were always surrounded by like books of different kinds, so I'm sure it seeped in somehow.
It
and that she held on to them.
After all these
so my
years,
mother's hoarding has been validated, certainly. Good. So anyway, so I was like interested in children's text. I was always interested in young people, but I thought I was going to end up being like, I don't know, a teacher or a theater I don't know, children's theater or something. I don't know. I thought it would be something, but I didn't know exactly.
Yeah.
And I did apply. I guess we can get to the question after. I applied for Teachers College. I applied 4 times for Teachers College.
4 times, really?
And didn't go each time.
Really?
Yeah, at different times. And then didn't go because something else came up or like another opportunity presented itself. I like deferred OISE, which now I was like, oh, I should have gone. Nobody can get into the program now.
Yeah.
But like, it seems I got a job. It will be okay.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that. Yeah. I mean,
I can get to that question.
Yeah. I mean, well, no. Like at any point in your life, were you overly concerned?
I think I wrote here yes.
Capital. No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Until even very recently.
Oh, really? Yeah.
No, I would say, which is why I kept looking at teaching, because it seemed to me that even if I wanted to be, like, work in, let's say, like, you know, young people's, like, a nonprofit or even, like, a theater program or something, that it would probably relate. It would be good to have a B.Ed, right? Like, I was like, oh, well, at least I can be sensible and try to have an education degree. But then even as I was finishing my undergrad, education jobs in Ontario were not easy to get and still are not, right? Like, it's not like having an education degree would have assured me. I have loads of people who finished, who have been doing, you know, like, maternity covers for years or, like, until they got, like, a permanent position. Yeah. So it's not like it would have been... It was more sensible, perhaps, as a choice than academia, but it was still pretty precarious. Yeah. And then I did take a publishing course at Ryerson. Oh, really? Yeah. Yeah, they still have me in the computer, which I thought was very impressive. I could not find the number, but it kept coming up when I joined. It kept coming up. It was like, please put in your Ryerson student number.
And you're like, wait a minute.
Like, I have no idea what that card is. No, I thought I was going to do publishing and editing. I took like an editing course because I knew... Well, you know what your strengths are, and then you know what you like doing. I don't think I would have been happy only editing, but with something. And then I thought about becoming a librarian. I, especially even after my master's at UBC, so I had this like master's in children's literature, and applied for education again because I was like, oh, what am I doing? Do I want to stay in Vancouver? Do I want to do my PhD? Is that really sensible? So I was encouraged to apply for the master's in library studies, like to become a children's librarian, because the idea was, which is what Judy Saltman was. Yeah. Who Judy actually gave her like a hard sell to me, because she was like, yeah, like you could do it and then you might have this job as a librarian, but you can continue to do your PhD like part-time, or you know, you can decide, and at least you'll have like this job,
and something that you're passionate about, something that's sort of in your field. But
which I think maybe if I didn't get into the PhD programs I wanted, or I didn't get enough money and funding, I might have done that actually, but it just was like the nature of what happened that I didn't end up doing it. Librarianship also is really not content oriented. It's very like, it's like about data, right? Like it's about like organization of data. A
lot of people forget that, don't they?
Yeah. Now the job, like I wanted to be a children's librarian, which would have involved more like choosing, like book selection in libraries, library collections, and like doing story time and organizing programming for teens. And I have a number of friends who did that master's with me who ended up doing that.
Really? Yeah.
And I could see that could have worked for me actually, but it didn't happen that way. But it could have. But I think for me, the actual program would have been way more brutal for me, because I would have been like, oh, I just do not care about like organizing data and graphs. Like, it's just not my thing. So I was worried. So I did consider these other kinds of things, and they probably would have been okay. Yeah. You know, I did consider, I know people would talk to me and they'd be like, oh, you're like such an outgoing person, you should just go into like advertising or like PR or something. But it wasn't really like my political standing on those. Was not. But I could see like over time, like if I was having trouble getting a full-time job, I imagine that might have happened for sure. Yeah. I mean, I worked at a lot of bookstores and those kinds of things over the years. But then I managed to go to grad school, I got a fellowship, I moved to England, and then I got really worried because the economy, well, it was already not great, but like the recession, like 2009 to 2010, which was I was like writing my PhD basically, was not a good time to apply for academic jobs in North America, and so I started worrying again. So once again, I saw a career counselor about what to do, like if I should. And a lot of academics go through this. You like work sessionally for many years and try to decide. It's very precarious work, right? If you have to have a contract year to year that you renew, which is totally fine when you're in your early 20s, but then later,
yeah,
like, kind of adds up, right? Like, if you want to have a family, or you want to just live in one place.
Not have to move around.
Not have to move around.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I think that I was worried. But I managed to, so this University of Winnipeg, I ended up getting a more permanent job there, and so I stopped. I applied for more academic jobs elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I stopped applying to the things, like, I applied for a job in New York at this, like, youth magazine to be, like, a, you know, like, kind of, like, editor, or ideas editor to work with young people. I applied for Scholastic. I applied for, like, a job to work for their to be, like, an education director for Scholastic, both in Canada and in the U.S. Yeah. So I applied for a bunch of these things, and I did get a phone interview for the one, but then I'm trying to remember when I got the phone interview from Winnipeg. It was sort of just timing. A lot of it's just timing.
Was that Scholastic, or was that the
It was the other one. It was the other one. Yeah, Scholastic. I'm trying to remember what happened. I don't think I got it. I applied twice to two different things. Yeah. There was also a Sesame Street job, which I still kind of regret. Didn't apply for.
Want to Sesame Street, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Like, that's a dream job. A lot of it had to do with changes in, like, I was Canadian applying for American jobs, right?
For sure. It's a little bit more difficult that way.
So if you're an academic, well, it depends. They have to be able to say that there's no one, like, unless you get the visa. Yeah. It's a whole other conversation. But if they, for visa work, they have to be able to prove that there's nobody else in America that can do this job, and that would be, like, a hard sell, right? So I would have had to pay for a visa on my own in order to live there, and I was kind of willing to do it, but anyway. So I was worried. And then in the end, even when I was living in Winnipeg, I was like, oh, do I want to live here? Like, do I want to spend my life working at this institution, living here, if I don't get another job somewhere else? So I was, every now and then I'd, like, look at other job listings for things, but the longer you spend being a researcher, it's hard to leave.
For sure, yeah.
Right? Like, so there were other things. I thought about starting my own, this museum project I've been working on for about 5 years, like, in different phases of it. Till now we can do the big grant. But I did, like, my colleague and I, which I still think we're going to do, like, sort of curate exhibits and stuff, but we did think about doing it as, like, we'll start a nonprofit, we'll start it that way, like, separate from the university, and we still might do that on the side, like, for sure, but I was ready to, like, kind of make it my main gig if needed, so I think, so anyway, definitely concern. I've been very lucky compared to many people. Yeah. So I'm very aware of that. Which I was aware of in Winnipeg too. Even though I didn't want to stay there. I was like, a lot of people would kill me, like, literally murder me for this job. So I need to be, like, you know. Yeah. I understand that. No. But you have to make decisions. I don't know, it's hard to make life decision stuff.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Like, early on. Yeah, when I don't know, there's advice somewhere here. Yeah, when I give advice earlier, like, I think in your 20s you can, if you have the freedom and flexibility to try different things, you should.
For sure, yeah. I feel like, just, like, this is slightly off topic, but also just, like, the current generation nowadays, and even, like, I think you're only one generation before me, where I think we're less adept to having the 20 years of experience at the same job, and it's like, we would like to move around, we don't necessarily like to, you know, like, do the whole 9 to 5 every day, like, which is like my parents' generation, so, and I don't think that necessarily appeals to them, because I say to my parents all the time, I'm like, I want to try different things. They go, you don't just want to find a job and then be comfortable and then retire? And I go, And I mean, those jobs still exist, although they are also very few and far between. Like, to have a job that you would be at for 20, 30 years with a pension is not really possible for many people, like, or want, like, it's not what people want. Yeah. Okay, and we're back. Okay. We were talking about concern about your future prospects. You're just talking about just in general the job market, and you know, just like in terms of, like, you weren't 100% sure. You have these different avenues that you could go down as well. Yeah. Yeah. And I would say and so unfortunately, and I mean, even if I'm like 10 to 15 years older than the students, I think I understand better than people who are quite a bit older than me the changes that have occurred. Like, I kind of lived through them, so I don't. Yeah, like, I give really different advice to people who ask me about grad school, for example, because I know, I wish, like, I just don't, like, I don't even, like, people are like, why didn't they tell you that it would be so hard? And I was like, well, I just don't think people knew, actually. Like, I just don't think the generation before had to do what I had to do. Like, I don't think it was part of the not the same experiences for sure. Yeah.
So I think that's I think that it's just different. Yeah, because again, even like advice like your parents can give you is like good. Like they live through a lot, so they can give you advice.
Yeah.
But they don't necessarily know, right?
Yeah.
Like especially advice about academia. So people would be like, "Oh, well, don't worry. Like the baby boomers are retiring now.
Yeah.
There'll be jobs soon." And I've been hearing that for 10 years. So I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Like, so what happens now is that people retire, and yes, there will be jobs. And like Ryerson has been awesome hiring. They're hiring all sorts of new people for a variety of reasons, but those are not the jobs of the people who retired. So it's not necessarily that someone retires in history that they're going to replace.
Yeah.
It's like they replace it with something different,
Yeah.
and if you're lucky, it's what they need, like what you've been working on, right? But it might just be in like creative industries or like a new area.
Yeah.
So I have friends, like my friend's husband is a European history prof, like World War II. Like he studies Hitler.
Yeah.
Like, his book is called Becoming Hitler. It's about like early Hitler studies.
Really, yeah.
And he's really smart, and he's published loads of books, and he has had so much trouble finding a job. Like
Really,
he is, like, and it has nothing to do with how good his research is. It's just that like he just didn't wait for someone, like if people retired in World War II history, they didn't necessarily replace them.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So it's changed. Anyway.
Yeah.
So those are the kinds of things that change. For years, universities hired differently too.
Yeah.
So.
And that makes sense too, to keep up with the times and what make room for other things as well. Because I couldn't imagine like the courses that you teach would have been here
like available
5 years
right?
ago.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine that at all. Like I think even the world in itself is so different than it was 5 years ago. It just keeps changing at a rapid pace. Were there any? You might have touched on this a little bit before, but were there any steps that you took to ensure that you obtained something that you wanted to do, not like a bank job, Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many times did I not go to law school? That's like a good question.
Yeah.
And when I wrote the GRE, which is like the grad school SAT that you have to write usually for the States, you don't have to write it in Canada for most programs.
Yeah.
But when I wrote the GRE before I applied for my master's, like people would be like, "Oh, you should just write the LSAT at the same time because you're writing it anyway and it's similar." And I was like, "But I don't want to go to law school like over and over again." Like, just because I do well at a test doesn't mean it's what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Right? So I was gonna say, it was definitely a gamble. I think that I did follow, like, you need a lot of backup plans, as I discussed. I think you need backup plans, but like it's not enough just to like follow your passion, because sometimes your passion like will not pay the bills. That is just like life, right?
Yeah.
But you can sometimes, like, following your passion does lead to other opportunities, right? That you might not have thought about.
Yeah,
so I think
for sure.
that's
Yeah.
And that happened to me a number of times, right? Where because I didn't go to law school, I discovered other things. Like, it wasn't necessarily what I thought was going to happen, but I definitely I would say, like, always, like, my friends who are in academia who had a lot of trouble had very focused topics that were, not that what I did, like, children's literature is a focused topic, but I did choose something that can kind of expand out, right? Because what I studied when I was starting my master's was different than, like, I kind of went with what was changing, and some fields are better to do that in than others, but you can even see that with, like, Lorraine Koister Jansen. I don't know if you know her work. So she's like a 19th century scholar, but she's adapted, like she's taken on digital humanities. She's done things that within those, Andrew O'Malley too, like they've taken on things beyond what their original focus is, and I think that like it's your interest, but you kind of expand with your interest and you kind of go with different ideas, and some people are very like, I think it's worth choosing,
not limiting yourself.
Not limiting yourself. Like, go after something, but be aware of, like, the narrowness of certain ideas. And I think that's true of every field, right? Like, if you choose something really narrow, it will be hard.
Definitely.
Like, you might get something. It's exactly what you want, but
it's rare. Like, you have to work a little bit harder, maybe.
Or have backup plans, anyway.
Like,
be open to some other
exactly
possibilities.
Did anyone throughout your life, and this is like probably the most personal question to ask, did anyone ever criticize you for pursuing work in the field of arts?
That's a great question. Children's literature, I mean, to this day, and I have a great job, people don't believe that you could have a job doing what I do. I think that's possible. Children's literature is still kind of demeaned too, because I think unless people, usually when people have kids and they start reading them, and then I get all these phone calls or like emails, they're like, oh my god, I don't understand, there's so many bad books, how do you choose them? I mean, people ask, but usually people don't see it as very serious, I think. And I mean, it is fun, but it's important, right? So I think, and I think in literature studies, for a long time, people had to defend themselves that the writing was a value, or like studying it was a value. And same with film, like same with media studies and comics, like Andrew O'Malley with comics. Like comics were like the edge of academia for a very long time, and now graphic novels have
they really have, haven't they?
Yeah, they've changed a lot and been validated. So I think even within that, certainly people, I think when I was doing my master's, especially like early on, people would be like, what are you going to do with that? Like,
that's always the
write
burning
a children's
question.
book?
Yeah.
Like, what are you going to do? And you're like, well, does it really matter? Like, I'm really interested in this thing. Like, let me do it, you know? I was even at a birthday party recently, and someone said, people I hadn't seen since undergrad, and this guy was like, oh, what did you take at McGill? And I was like, this is a question I haven't answered in a really long time, like my undergrad major. And I said, oh, English Lit. And so then they said, they were like, so what did you do with it? What did you end up doing with it? And I was like, well, I became an English professor. I was like, damn it, I finally got to say that. That's amazing. So anyway, but usually you don't become an English professor. It happens sometimes. It can, but I think people, it was literature, literature especially, I think people have ideas in the arts about how useful it could be and what you can do with it, or what the value is beyond. I think people want really practical.
Yeah, it seems like, because I mean, I guess like even literature itself is a little bit more it's a little bit more theory based. I mean, at least that's the way that it appears to most people. Whereas I think that what you do, it's way more hands on. It's a little more practical. But I developed it that way. I guess so. Like earlier on, it was more theoretical, and I think people, even my PhD has like a lot of theory in it, and I think people struggle with like pure theory or like really esoteric topics, or like what do you like like my brother-in-law's a philosopher. I mean, to me what I do is like very practical comparatively. But I think people have, but I think over time things have changed a little bit, like I think that it depends who you're talking to too, right? And like, I mean, it depends on people. I always am just surprised about people. Like, you always think you'll get those comments from people who didn't go to university, for example. But I would say my experience with people who didn't go to university, they think what I do is cool sometimes, right? Like, you meet like, older people, a lot of old I went to talk at a seniors home, and people were really excited. Like, they saw the value in it. Well, if you talk to just some like bankers or engineers, or worse. That's true.
Don't quote me.
Exactly.
But the critique, like, I think it depends how practical you think your degree is supposed to be.
I've even found that across different faculties as well, just like getting to know people, and it's always the same, like, well, what are you going to do with that? And like, I think there was an what prompted this whole theme behind this first issue was there was an article in the Eye Opener that was all about some study was conducted. There's always a study to back it up about how arts degrees are still the least likely to get employed, which I can also understand. But I think like you were mentioning earlier, it depends where you look for work.
And how you spin it too. I have an answer that's coming up, I think, about that.
Beautiful.
I think it's I don't know, career prospects, current attitudes, something.
Well, actually, that is the next question. What is your opinion on current attitudes towards career prospects in the arts?
So that's what I think has changed, but it is also how you present it, right? And I think that Ryerson is starting to do a better job at this, which is great. And some universities, it's like how you understand what you're learning from your liberal arts degree has to be kind of explainable in other terms, right? And on your CV even, like, I think people don't value enough like how much you can craft a cover letter in a CV. That is a skill, right?
It is,
and it's a skill that people in the arts are really good at, but you have to know you're really good at it. Like, so you have to know that you have communication skills that are like, you can really like, you can sell like a really good cover letter, like you're good at it, right? But I think, and that goes towards so many careers, right? That you can be articulate and critical, and I mean, the ability to summarize ideas and then articulate them, either orally or in written, is like the most valuable thing you can have in almost every field, right? Like, including science fields and engineering, right?
Absolutely.
Like, especially if people are like working in labs and getting big grants, like the difference between people who have like writing abilities for grant applications, like, that is a huge thing, right? And there's loads of people doing the work that's not about communication, but I think that I know loads of people who work as like research coordinators outside of the arts who come from the arts, right? And I think too, I mean, have I got to this part yet? I'm not really sure, but I think that there's like, the economy has changed, right? And I think the economy for like entrepreneurial ideas and creative innovation, especially, I mean, innovation is a big term here. Yeah, it's such a big buzzword. Yeah. But I think it's true, right? So, and I think as an art student, you do, you just have to know that you have them, though. Like, I think the idea is that people are like, oh, I don't have skills to bring to this next thing. So you have to like think outside the box a little bit. Definitely. Yeah. And I think the university is trying. I think the university can try even harder at helping students in those transition times, like in your third and fourth year of your degree, to kind of start imagining what you could do with your degree. I think that I think for years people are like, well, you have this liberal arts degree and then you go do something else with it, and that leap is not explained. And I think that and some people are better at kind of remobilizing their skills or remobilizing. But unfortunately a lot of it has to do with like nepotism too, right? So you have your arts degree, but you're like, for years it was like your dad or your grandfather and your family did something, so you know that you can kind of curate. Exactly. Well, if you don't come from those backgrounds, like you need to have mentors that help you do that. You need like professors and fellow students can help you. Like I think that those things they're there, they just have to be cultivated more explicitly. So I think that they're there, though, in your liberal arts degree, for sure. Definitely,
what is it? Well, like, what is your current belief?
That? I think I did.
Yeah, so you did,
Okay. My current belief about career prospects, I think that things are better than people think. What did my supervisor would always be like, optimism, but be realistic, you know, like, like be really optimistic.
But don't forget to be realistic.
Don't forget to get a little bit of realism. Yeah. I think that there's just lots of opportunities that don't look like they used to, and so people are it's easy to like poo-poo them, but actually, you know, there's a lot of innovative careers. And I think, on the one hand, yes, it does mean there's a lot of precarity for people, so you have to be patient, which I think not everybody who is young is good at being.
Especially when you're in your undergrad. I
think patience is, I don't know, like,
it's a virtue, you know?
Like, I did get a job that I really wanted, but it did take me a long time. Like, I went through many things to get there. I mean, I had a plan, but it was, and I don't know if I even understood how long it would take, you know? Like, you can... and your patience does wane too. But it is about patience. But there are things, right? And sometimes you just have to kind of, be open to something that you didn't think about that's kind of related. Like it might lead you, like the job you have might not be the job you have for 30 years with a pension, but it might lead you to another opportunity that's like really a good fit for you. Usually you have to have like at least two kind of jobs that
it's not like A to B anymore. It's like it's all A to D to
and sometimes I mean the early experiences that were kind of negative can make you like a better manager or a better boss like later too, or like if you decide to do your own startup, like that time you spent working for a magazine or working for a journal, like those things. I mean, I know I worked on I was an editor on two different, like a journal and a newspaper in undergrad. And I still, like, there's still things I know how to do because of those things. Like, they're not, like, I knew that I don't have the job, exactly that job, but it was related.
Those skills are transferable, exactly.
They're transferable. They became those things. I always give the example, I think I wrote here. Anyway, my sister is a doctor, but she has a semiotics degree. She has, like, an arts... she has, like, a semiotics and communication degree from U of T. And she... So McMaster takes people that are not, like, their medical school. I don't know if everyone knows this, too. Their medical school specifically and Ottawa, I think, similar. So they take people that come from, like, non-science backgrounds, specifically. So she had to do some science courses, but she did not have a science degree at all.
Interesting,
And in many ways, I think she would say it made her a better medical student and a doctor in some ways. It was harder on the front end sometimes, but certainly her abilities to, like, write, because you have to write, like, as a doctor, you have to write up all sorts of things, right? Like, all your diagnoses and your letters to people and all those things. Like, she is way better at it. Like, she does it very easily. And even some of, like, group dynamics and problem solving in medical school. I know, which is really, like, wild. She had a few friends. She was definitely, like, the most extreme, being from this kind of communications background.
That's interesting because, like, there's always this, like, I always think of the movie. The best example I can think of is that movie Patch Adams with Robin Williams, and how he's more like adapted to saying, so how are you feeling, like how are you doing, what's your name, instead of treating people just like treating patients like they're just bodies and all that. So I think that is one of the things that sort of separates arts from maybe some other disciplines, is that there's like this just more there's compelling nature to humanize, this desire to humanize, I guess is the best way to put it. And I think too, like certain my sister would say it too, but I have other friends who are in sciences that if you have like a critical background, like so you're like, part of it's like problem solving, but also it's like being able to critique or evaluate something, and like a lot of times in science they don't want you to question things in the early phases of it, but later on it is better to be able to like critique what people are saying. Like, you shouldn't be taking it at face value. You should ask questions, right? Exactly. And like that's what liberal arts is best at, is like asking questions. That's what you should be doing, right? Poking holes in everything. Exactly. And same with like research. Like there's in my class too, like there's a lot of research from social sciences and childhood studies that's really important, but oftentimes they assume certain things at the base level that should maybe be reflected upon. Like, you can still go forward from that perspective, but you should be like, these other perspectives exist. Where can you go from there? That kind of thing. Exactly. So. And then I guess this brings me to my final question. Is there any advice that you'd like to offer any of your current students, or just students within faculty in general? Anything at all. It doesn't even have to be career related. Just like any advice about life? Have fun. It's true though. I will say that first, but then I will read from whatever I wrote here, my messy notes that apparently... This was a good break, though, from my work I had to do last night. I would say that your time... I think I wrote this, sort of. Your time, especially in undergrad and in the Faculty of Arts, you meet really amazing people, because the people who are attracted to liberal arts education and Faculty of Arts are a certain type of person, I find. Absolutely, and usually will end up doing really interesting things in a range of fields, right? Like, it isn't like going to like a professional program where most people are going to end up following. So you never know who. It's worth like knowing your peers. I think it's really important. I'm still friends, and I have colleagues that are people I knew in undergrad and then in my master's, right? So I don't think, don't spend all your time. Don't think that's not important. Like, social stuff is really important when you're in undergrad. Like, you're learning stuff about yourself and about being a person. And, and I think people joke about like being a party person or whatever, but I think that there's like, there's a big line between being social and like, jumping off like the building into a pool or whatever, which is fine too. Do that sometimes. I think people are important in your program that are, it's worth getting to know, like, that's valuable to know people, and faculty too. I think it's like, Ryerson's like a school, like, it's big, but it's not as big as some universities are, and I think that, especially I think the colleagues I have met, many of whom are very interested actually in like being mentors, so like happy to help people like and chat with people about like what you're studying or like take it. And it's worth doing that, because I think some other universities are like more traditional in their institutional like in those kind of dynamics, and I think take advantage of it, like do that. Like, I think it's worthwhile, like getting to know people and like getting advice and getting feedback on things, like take advantage of it. I think that's important. And then I was going to say, it was like the long view of arts. It's like, you never know what's going to happen. So even if like there are planners who said that they were going to go to medical school by like whatever year, and they'll do this. And like sometimes that happens, but like most people, that is not true. You like change your major, things happen. You thought you were going to go do this, whatever you thought you were going to do, and changes. So I think like long view is good. I think it's long view. I think that's good for arts people. Being open to change, for sure. I think so. Like, and flexible, like that there's even people who are like, I know I want to go to grad school, which I think is good to know about yourself. Especially now that things have shifted quite a bit in academia, that like, so you can know, but you can also see that grad school might lead a variety of ways, and it doesn't have to necessarily lead just like one outcome. Exactly. And you can tell that when people ask you like, why are you studying arts? It's always the like there's multiple outcomes. But I think so. I think open to opportunities is good. And you never know. Like people are like you never know what faculty, or like even like, I know that when I was an undergrad and even during my master's, like guest speakers, for example, to your class, like if someone really
had like a profound effect on you, like that can be that could change your whole life, actually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's not just like a prof. It could be like a prof you have all the time, but it could also be like, like a one-time thing that you might want to follow, right? So I think be open to that. I definitely, like, Sherry Dimelin just came to speak the other week, and I brought some of my students. Yeah. She's like Governor General award-winning writer. Yeah. And I think for some people it was like the first time they'd heard an author in person speak. And where John Arno Lawson, I was so sad he couldn't come last term, but he's coming to the class on the 29th. Oh, really? Yeah. And I think it's just important. Those opportunities exist in arts quite a bit. And I think, follow them. Yeah. I think it's just good. Yeah. Don't think it's just like I think when people have like guest talks, they're like, the guest is here. And sometimes people are boring and some people are profound, but I think it's worth it. They could change it. They could change like the way you think about things. And,
for sure, yeah.
And career too. You could be like, because someone comes, you're like, oh, I could do.
Yeah, you're like, wait a minute, you do this, I can do that. Yeah.
I think that happens.
For sure, yeah. Well, I think that's about it. Unless there's anything else you want to add.
Yeah, this is what are they talking about? I think I was just babbling about precarity and things. Being persistent. Oh yeah, this is a good advice for the end. So I think people are scared when they're an undergrad to ask questions even after the class is over. So like if you had like, you know what I mean, like you can come later. Yeah. So I think people are like have ideas later or they have questions later. Like I think you should follow up. It's okay. Like professors, well, if they don't answer your email, they don't answer your email. But people usually will meet with you after. And then when you're applying for things like, or you're interested in grad school, even if it's just the start of a thought, it's like not for a year or so, you could still start doing research. I think that's because you might decide you don't want to do it, right? And so I think it's like start doing research and be persistent about things, and don't worry about failing. Like failure is part of every career, but certainly like in arts, like I think like people are scared to contact. Like let's say you want to work in a publishing house or do something in an online magazine, and people, if you don't get a response the first time, people are like, oh, I guess that didn't happen.
That's it, yeah.
But like a lot of times in academia too, like I think I tried my PhD supervisor. I probably emailed him 3 times before he responded. And then he was like, I'm so sorry, I was in Belgium, something happened. I'm really excited about your project. Like it's not. But if I hadn't followed up, like you have to. I think that's people they're impatient and also just like. You're worried that you're going to bother people or whatever. But I think, the worst thing that happened is someone's like, no, sorry, I can't help you.
Maybe stop and think about it. That is the worst thing that could happen. They just say, no, can't help you. Sorry.
But, I think, do research and be persistent. Like, even about CVs or if you need advice or you need to go back to, talk to, the Career Center 3 times. Don't feel bad about it. Just do it. Keep being persistent. Because it's easy. You have to be kind of comfortable, get comfortable with. Yeah,
with asking for help. I think it's a good life skill to have in general. But
I find in arts, just because it's like what I was saying before, that it's not the type of field that's so obviously practical. So it's not like you're following. It's like you write the LSAT, then you apply for these law schools, and you do that might be one choice you make.
Yeah, there's no central placement office for arts.
I think so. I think it's worth asking people for help sometimes or questions. Be like, oh. Am I supposed to do this? Or I think that's worthy. Failure is making cold calls too, I think is something in arts you have to kind of learn how to do that, especially people now. I don't know, I have this friend who's a career counselor who thinks you're supposed to just the best thing to do is kind of show up in the old style way because everyone's doing everything online. That if you show up for a talk or show up, and there is a little bit of truth to that, that you will be memorable
for sure.
I'm not saying you drop off your cassette to get your at the record studio.
Way, here's my demo.
The 80s. But I think. But you know what I mean? I think persistence is and patience are hand in hand. You have to be pushy a little bit, and it's not bad. Because I find art students, I was like that too. I was I don't know what to do. And then someone was like, well, you should send this, someone would send me something. I'd be like, oh, why didn't I do that already? Look for, same with scholarships. Never feel bad about applying.
A lot of times some people won't apply because they don't think they'll get them, and then there you go, it's yours by default.
I think that, and it's so, anyway, if you don't get it, you don't get it, but you might, and then once you've written one application like that, it's easier to write another one. Exactly. That's the other thing too, right?
Do it once, you can do it again. Exactly.
Scholarships are like that too, because you've already written your piece. Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much.
I hope that was helpful.
Very helpful. Thank
awesome.
you.
Think of anything else.
Awesome.
I can forward it.
Yes, please do. Thank you.
Yeah.